Okay, let's go ahead and start. I want to introduce Lisa Elliot and Austin Gehret. Lisa is in CAT, the Center for Access Technology, and Austin is in the Math Science Department, math area, right? And today they're going to be discussing, Matt says you're in science.
Yeah, science.
Oh, sorry. Today they're going to be discussing a National Science Foundation Center grant that they've had for a number of years here. And it's working with students on remote tutoring. And I also want to mention that Lisa was just inducted this last weekend to the Millionaires Club, which is a group of faculty who have received at least $1 million in funding for their work over their career. So congratulations for that. And if you need a loan,
it's also an RIT.
Well,
Good afternoon, everybody, and I just want to thank Stephen for interpreting for us. So Gary pretty much eliminated my first 3 slides, but I'm going to review them anyway. Remote not working. Okay, great. So what I thought what we would do today is we would sort of give you a broad overview of the project, because while we do use remote tutoring, that's just a small part. I want to give you a bigger picture of what we're doing. Secondly, Austin's going to spend some time talking about his particular experiences doing remote tutoring. And finally, he's also going to talk about some of the additional benefits that he's gained from working with the community, in particular, how he's used the tools to support other activities he's done on campus. Okay, so as Gary mentioned, this is a project that's been funded from the National Science Foundation. It's called the Deaf STEM Community Alliance. STEM refers to science, technology, engineering, and math. It was one of 10 projects that was funded by the former Research and Disabilities Education Project, which doesn't exist as a funding source at this point in time. But there were 10 alliances that were funded by this project. And all the rest of the 9 really focused on disabilities in general. And ours is unique because we focus exclusively on deaf and hard of hearing students. This is a multi-year project. We initially thought it was going to be 5 years, but it seems that there's been some funding adjustments. So at this point in time, the project is scheduled to end at the end of August of 2017. So we're about midway through the project, which is a great time to be sharing with you some of the things that we've learned, and hopefully to get some more of you to join in with us, because there's very exciting things that are going to be happening. So an alliance means that there's more than just one campus. RIT is the lead campus, but we have 2 partners, Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, and Camden County College in Blackwood, New Jersey. And I just wanted to point out our logo on the upper part of the slide there. We designed the logo to reflect our partners. So the blue petal is for Camden, the orange in the middle is ours, and the red is for Cornell. And we tried to even match the official university colors of each school. So if you see that logo, you'll know that that's us. Also, I should point out that there are little business cards near the sign-up table that include our logo, that also give you access to our website. And we'll be talking a little bit about that in a minute, but that way, when you leave and you want to go back and find out more, you'll have access to that. So this alliance addressed several challenges that are common challenges of students and our nation as well. Obviously, we need more science, technology, engineering, and math professionals. Before that, though, you need to have science, technology, engineering, and math majors. So we want people to be successful so that we can have successful careers later on. But we all know that there's also a shortage, particularly of people with disabilities, and deaf and hard of hearing individuals fall into that group as well. In fact, only about 0.2% of new PhDs in the last 10 years have been deaf or hard of hearing. So we know that we really want to strengthen the opportunities. Another challenge that we have is that there's a tremendous amount of information about STEM that's available on the internet. You can just Google any topic and you'll find just so much information, but it's really scattered. There's some very high quality information out there, and some of it has in fact been created by our colleagues here. But it's hard to know about if you don't know where to look. And so one of the goals of this project was also to bring together a number of those resources so that people would have a common place to go and have a common vocabulary for developing their STEM knowledge. So, research by many of our colleagues here, I see Sue Foster in particular, but also a number of other people, Mark Marshart, John Albertini, Mary Lang, and Ron Kelly. A number of people have, over the years, identified particular barriers to success for deaf and hard of hearing students in STEM. And we found that they're in 3 general categories. The first one being student preparation. So unfortunately, deaf and hard of hearing students often get to college and they don't have the background that they need in order to be successful. And part of that is because there may not be access to the education in their schools. Part of it may be because of the emphasis on other types of skills that they've learned before. But in any case, we need to have more emphasis on preparation so that students are successful. Secondly, we've noticed that there are challenges relating to socialization. So many of our students, for example, come to school and they've never met another deaf or hard of hearing student. But they've also never maybe met a deaf or hard of hearing person, an adult who's a professional and who's successful in the field that they dream about. So what we're trying to accomplish by emphasizing socialization is both meeting other individuals, peers who have common interests, but also the opportunity to meet professionals in the field. And the third category is accessible media, and I've already talked about that a little bit, and there are a number of ways in which we share accessible media through our project. So we have one very big goal for this project, and that's that we're building a model virtual academic community, which will be abbreviated as VAC. We want this to be a community that will help students have success in the long term. And why we said the long term is because the project was originally only funded for 5 years. And we know that it sometimes takes longer for students to get through the program than 5 years. So we can only help them a little bit, and hopefully that will help them to stick it out. We have 2 big objectives, and one of them is to document and disseminate the findings of the project, the processes. I'm doing that right here, right now, so you're helping me to fulfill my objective. The second one is to increase the GPAs of the students who participate in the project and to help them to be successful and receive their degrees at the end. So when I say model building, I don't mean a perfect thing. Nothing's perfect in this world anyway. But we've used the idea of model building from software design, and that means that it has 2 key components. First of all, that it's incremental. We started by building different parts. We didn't have it all at once. So we started by building our website, and then quickly afterwards starting with remote tutoring. And then eventually we added remote mentoring, and we've been tinkering with things ever since. So the second component is that This is an iterative project. So we get feedback from people and we make changes to make it more successful. So this is sort of a big picture perspective of the different parts. Oh. Okay, there was a triangle back there, excuse me. Okay, so this is the big picture, so to speak. The blue triangle in the middle represents the whole structure. On the top, the pale orange triangle is the Google Apps for Education account, which really helps us to drive the whole machine. On the left, the red triangle represents our website, and on the other side, the blue triangle represents our YouTube video library. And from time to time, we post various videos. Eventually, for example, this video of this presentation will be up there. We have videos, we've done interviews with some of our mentors and presentations. We have instructions on how to sign up for Google Hangouts or Google Plus on there. So we have a number of different things that we've been collecting along the way. So in order to create this infrastructure, we had different functionality. Number one is communication. You have to be able to communicate. And because of the system that we have, we can communicate in a variety of different ways. Dissemination is, as you know, one of the key objectives of this project, and we're trying to have different strategies for dissemination. Because this is a funded project, we also have an evaluation component, and so we have to track how the system is being used, and that's user analytics. But all three of these things fit very nicely into our infrastructure. So I mentioned communication and the Google Apps for Education account. This is really,
Looking for the square again.
There you go. All right. Just too quick. So there are 4 circles on this diagram. The center circle is email. With the Google Apps for Education account, we were able to, first of all, get a free domain. So that was very important to us to make this a cost-effective project. So Google Apps for Education is free to any university or school, and it allowed us to create a domain name. So our domain is .dhhvac. So all of our participants receive a special email account with the ending .dhhvac. But that allows us access to communicate in a variety of different ways. So we can participate in a private community, which is sort of like a Facebook page, but it's restricted to participants in the community. We can use chat, which is text chat, and we can do that in a variety of different media. And finally, Hangouts. So that, and Austin's going to talk a lot more about the Hangout system. But the key is having that email account. Now, if you have a Google address, you could also do any of these things. But for us, we decided to have this special domain so that we could keep track of what was going on in the community. But you should be aware that you can use your own Google Plus and Gmail accounts and accomplish the same thing with any of your friends. But if you want to keep track of things, then you need to set something up. Ready? So, all right, so today what we're really focusing on is that top bubble, student preparation, in particular the remote tutoring. And that's really going to be the focus of Austin's presentation. As I said, this has been an interesting model. We started out with one model, the top left corner, where we had people who were in the same vicinity, faculty, tutors, and students. We started out this way because, frankly, we didn't know if the technology was going to work, and we wanted students to have access to their tutoring. But once we figured out that it actually could be successful, we were able to change things as well. And so we have a number of different ways that we can deliver New Jersey. But the tutors are here at RIT. In fact, they're students in the MSSE program. So we've used our students to tutor their students. And there's no way that that could be a local project. In the lower left-hand corner, we have another example of how remote tutoring would work. We had, NTID had hired a tutor, an adjunct tutor who lives in Florida to do tutoring and engineering. And so those were our students being tutored by an adjunct tutor who lives in Florida. Again, a great example of how this works. And finally, at Cornell, we had an undergraduate student who was a senior and was very highly skilled, and who had taken the courses previously that our Cornell students had taken. And so they used the tutoring on their campus. But the difference between that and here is who was doing the tutoring, an undergraduate versus a faculty member. So those are a number of different ways. There are other ways we could try it as well, but so far these are the 4 different ways that we've tried tutoring. So some quick little facts about what we did with tutoring. We based it initially on the model that we have here at RIT, so face-to-face, making an appointment during office hours sort of thing. We have, to this point in time, conducted over 120 synchronous sessions. And we primarily use the Google Hangouts as our web conferencing platform. And again, Austin's going to show you how cool that can be. Because this is education, we wanted people to have access to a variety of different devices. We know that everybody uses different equipment. And it would be bad for us to build a model that said, oh no, you can only use the IBM ThinkPad. You know, but that just wouldn't work because people have different things. So we've tried Chromebooks, Macs, PCs, iPads, other tablets. I think sometimes students have used their phones even. So depending on what people have. We use a variety of different online resources. For example, many of the science classes use Pearson curriculum materials, and so the homework is online already. So we use that. People use paper and pencil, whiteboards. There's also an online application called Concept Board, which hooks right into the Google Hangout, and we use that as well. One of the surprising discoveries that we made is that people were not just using synchronous or real-time tutoring, but also asynchronous tutoring. We haven't tracked that as well as we've tracked the synchronous tutoring, but we do have examples of how tutors have used asynchronous tutoring as well. So at this point in time, I'm going to hand the stage over to Austin, and he's going to explain his experiences.
Thank you, Lisa. We had a last-minute assignment for Access Services. I had practiced this called sim-comming, but I think I'm going to use this now to force me to not sign while I present. Thank you again, Stephen. Okay, I'm going to stop signing now. So, my talk will really focus on 2 parts. The first part is really my experiences doing distance remote tutoring using the Google Hangouts platform, and some of the best practices I found using that to offer remote tutoring to our students. If there's any time left, and there should be, I'll talk a little bit about how my experience with Google and Hangouts has led me to adopt other Google technologies such as Google Drive to enhance my efficiency and productivity at work with my other responsibilities. So really, the advantages of the Google Hangout, I really want to focus on 3. The first will be how the interface itself allows for multiple communication modalities to happen at the same time. And as Lisa had mentioned, because we're trying to model a face-to-face tutoring interaction, having multiple communication channels is key in creating that, following that model. Then after that, I'll talk a little bit about how the Google Hangouts to offer remote tutoring is actually more accommodating for some student and faculty schedules. And we can take advantage of that in certain situations. And then the third part will be really the meat of this part of the talk, where I describe a little more in depth 2 features of Google Plus Hangouts. One being the document sharing feature, the other being a screen share feature that I found really enhanced my experience and the students who participated in remote tutoring with me, their experience as well. So, as I mentioned, the interface allows for multiple communication modalities to happen. How does that occur in a Google Plus Hangout? And it really comes down to 3 different functions that I took advantage of during my remote sessions. One is the fact that with a Google Plus Hangout, all parties involved have a video feed available to communicate visually with anyone involved in the Hangout. The second is that the Hangout itself has microphone capability. So if a student or faculty member has a preferred communication method of using their voice, they have that option. The third feature, which I found really invaluable for some of the sessions I was conducting, is the chat feature, which allows any form of written communication to occur simultaneously while both signing and or voice is occurring in the Hangout too. So, as Lisa mentioned, anyone with a Google email can set up a Google Hangout. Now I'm showing specifically my project email here for my login, but anyone with a Google email can set up a Hangout with relative ease. Simply by logging in, you'll come to your Google Plus homepage, which is automatically linked with your Google email. You'll notice in the lower right-hand corner a link to start a video Hangout. By clicking on that, you'll launch the Hangout, and you can invite any other participants using their emails to that Hangout. Now what you'll notice here is that all participants have their own individual video feed. You'll also notice above those smaller video feeds is a main video feed. Any participant at any time can click on one of those lower video feeds to give the expanded main video feed. So for example, if a student really wanted to focus on what a tutor was saying, they would click on the tutor's picture and that would open up. You'll also notice in the bottom middle we have a blacked out video feed. This was one of the earliest online sessions I conducted. And so there were technical issues that might pop up, so we actually had a mediator in the middle to help contribute if things became confusing for either me or the student. But while the student and I were doing our online tutoring, they turned off, the mediator turned off their video feed so as not to be distracted. But they could still observe everything that was happening in the Hangout. You'll notice that this mediator also turned off their own microphone, but they could still hear what the tutor and the student were saying, and could activate that if need be to add any comments. So the ability to control individually each of these features is a very nice component of the Google Plus Hangout. You'll also notice in the Hangout window here, on the left side, is a column of different Hangout apps. One of the apps that I believe I used in every single tutoring session was the chat app, shown there in blue. When a tutor or student activates that app, a chat window will open on the right side of the Hangout, and any participant in that Hangout can now add comments while communication is occurring through video. Because I was supporting some higher level biochemistry classes as part of this project, the chat feature, it became very apparent to me early on, was invaluable. Some of the classes that I tutor have overly long, complex jargon with similar sounding, similar spelled words that can have completely different meanings. So sometimes signing and voice alone may not be necessarily enough for me to convey that to the student. But by incorporating the chat feature, I could strictly emphasize the spelling of each feature that I wanted them to be able to take home and understand. So I found that a very valuable use And what's also nice is that the student at any time during this could copy and paste this transcript to a Word document, or themselves take a screen capture of the Hangout. And they have all that information for later. You may have also noticed that some of the Hangouts showed me going up to my office whiteboard. And what I found early on, and Lisa may have mentioned this, that we have experimented a little bit with online whiteboards and incorporating those into Hangouts with some success. But as I mentioned, this was one of our earliest sessions. And in the spirit of modeling a face-to-face session, and tutors that do face-to-face sessions frequently know what works, and that is whiteboards. So I found it was imperative for me to incorporate my physical whiteboard as much as I could. And by simple repositioning of my computer camera, when I stepped away from my desk, the student could clearly see what I was trying to write. So I think it's just important to emphasize that while we're using new technology here with Google, old-fashioned technology still has a place. And the integration of both of those is really what's important for a tutor to decide what's going to match best for the student's needs. So to summarize, the Google Hangout has a number of different features that allow multiple communication modalities to happen, even simultaneously. And any participant at any time during the Hangout can choose to activate or disable these features. The next part of my talk is just a little bit, a little description about how using Google Plus Hangouts with distance tutoring I found to be more accommodating for faculty and student schedules in certain circumstances. So again, modeling the traditional face-to-face tutoring session, any tutor in this room here knows mutual availability of both student and faculty is obviously key to making that happen. And we have found sometimes it can be a real challenge to get students to come to our office either because of their class schedule. Again, we're tutoring STEM students here, all of whom have a large laboratory component in their schedules, which restricts their time. But also many of our students are working either part or full-time to help pay for their studies. So finding time physically one-on-one to meet can and has been a real challenge. But the benefits of the Google Plus Hangout for doing distance tutoring is some of these students can take advantage of our resources outside of normal work hours. What also may not be as readily apparent is that the tutor themselves can conduct tutoring not just from their office, but from their home, other locations around campus, or even while they're traveling for conference or other professional development responsibilities. And in fact, I think we had one tutor in the project who did conduct at least one session from Brazil. Unfortunately, that wasn't me. Brazil.
Oh, wow.
But as proof of concept, here's me conducting one of my first sessions with one of our former students, Pepsi Frank, from my home. Not as extravagant, but it does work. This table summarizes all of the students that I've personally tutored in this project since I joined 3 or 4 years ago. And I want to emphasize this student here, E. This was a student who I was never able to have face-to-face tutoring with due to the fact that this student worked full-time off campus to support their family. And lived about 20 or 30 minutes off campus. So when they came to school, their time was really devoted to class mostly. But this student, when they found out about the opportunity to join the project and get some online tutoring, they readily accepted. And we, in fact, had 2 sessions in 2 consecutive days. The first one being so successful that they immediately signed up for another session the following morning. So really, it's somewhat obvious that being able to conduct online tutoring would be more available to both student and faculty schedules. But I think it's really important to emphasize that some students out there that need tutoring and may not be able to get it in a face-to-face manner can take advantage of an online platform, just like Google Plus. Now, the third part here of part one, I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of different features that I've used in the Google Plus Hangouts that I feel really enhance the tutoring experience for both me and the student. And the first one of those is the document sharing feature, which is associated with Google Drive. So some of you might be asking, well, what's Google Drive? And so I'm mentioning here in relation to the project email, but this holds true for anyone with a Gmail account. You have an online hard drive or a Google Drive associated with your email through Google+. A tutor can upload any documents they've collected or created over the years into this drive, and then in preparation for a tutoring session with a specific student, can grant access levels of that document to the student prior to a hangout. Then when they initiate a hangout and they want to pull in some of those resources with that student, it's easy to collaborate. So just to show you how that actually happens, here we are back in our Google Plus homepage. In the upper right, you'll see 9 little squares there, which represent different Google Plus apps. When you click on that, you get an expansion showing the various apps you can use in Google Plus. You'll notice I highlighted Google Drive there. If you click on that, you'll be taken into your own personal Google Drive where you can store any number of files that you wish. Now I believe, I looked at this the other day, that a personal Google Drive, I believe, has a 15 gigabyte capacity, whereas the projects are up to 30 right now. And I am almost at 12 or 13 gigabytes, I believe. So when I click in my Google Drive, it takes me to all the different folders that I have in my Google Drive. And this is a pretty recent picture showing the different documents I have in Google Drive right now. I can click on any folder or individual file and set up access permissions for a student simply by having their email address ready. I know that I have a file or folder shared when I look at the icon of the folder and it shows a couple of heads, indicating that is a shared folder. If you share a folder, automatically any file inside that folder is shared. And to know specifically which student I have granted access to those files, their email address letters appear in the upper right there. Now that I've set up the access, I can now go into a Google Hangout, invite that student, and then we can collaborate on any of those documents that I've given them the appropriate access for. And that is achieved how? By using the chat window feature. So again, here we are in our Google Hangout. On the left is our apps. Simply click on the chat feature, and that will open on the right. In the lower right, the box to put in a new comment also has a link to your Google Drive. By clicking on that, all of the folders within your personal Google Drive will open up. And then you can find the file or folder that you would like to share with that student by simply selecting it. Once that's selected, a link will appear in the chat window, which the student can then simply click on to access. And now the student and you can collaborate on the document while the Google Hangout is still occurring simultaneously. So this is a really nice feature that allows you to take those resources you've developed over the years and you want to put to good use, and maybe afraid you can't use if you're not face-to-face. You can use it in an online format here. So just to summarize, this feature allows a tutor to leverage more of their own resources in a distance online format. And depending on the access levels you grant to the students, those collaborative documents can either be viewed or edited together. The last feature I want to mention, I found to be my absolute favorite feature in the Google Plus Hangout, and that is the screen share feature. The screen share feature, like chat, is an associated Google Plus Hangout app. which you'll locate on the left side of your Hangout. What it allows you to do is show your other, either the tutor or student, another window you have open on your desktop while you're in the Hangout. And we found this to be, the potential for this really can allow Google Plus Hangouts to expand to include other third-party software while you're in the Hangout. Again, this table is showing the various students that I've tutored in the project. And I highlight students C through G because all of them took advantage of this screen share feature while they were in their Google Plus Hangout. You may also notice the particular class or classes the students were enrolled in while using screen share, General Analytical Chemistry. This is a class that has a very heavy online homework component. So often when I've tutored these students in these classes face-to-face, the focus of these sessions tend to be online homework-based, which is fine. But I was really curious to see if I could incorporate this into an online distance tutoring format. And by using screen share, we can. So to take you through how this works, we don't have great screen captures using students, but Lisa and I set up a mock tutoring session a few weeks ago to kind of illustrate how this works. So I am under the role of student. So when you see the red at the top, that indicates the student's perspective in the Hangout. And then Lisa is assuming the tutor's role in this series of screen captures. So we've started a Hangout, and I'm asking about a particular question on my homework that I have open in another window on my desktop. And I'm really struggling to figure out why I'm getting it wrong. And I'm trying to explain through sign or voice or chat why it's wrong. But anyone with experience, by clicking on the screen share app on the left-hand side, now we're going to switch perspectives. We're going to go to Lisa's perspective now. My homework program is being shown to the tutor instead of my video. So the tutor can immediately see everything that I'm doing wrong and give me immediate feedback on why I'm doing something wrong. I actually found I was able to go through more online homework problems with students using this feature in Google Hangouts than I could in a face-to-face session. So my productivity and efficiency actually accelerated in the online format for using this feature. It's important to note that while screen share is enabled by the student's video cannot be seen by the tutor. But the tutor's video can still be seen by the student. So the tutor can maintain signing, voice, or chat to communicate with the student. But if the student needs to tell the tutor something while they have screen share enabled, signing won't be sufficient because that video is not there. Once a tutor explains the mistake and the student fixes it, they can then close screen share and their video is instantly restored and they can continue the Hangout. So to summarize this section, I found screen share to be working very well with online homework platforms such as Mastering Chemistry, which I showed up there. And because of that, I think has great potential to liaise with other online homework platforms. I also found in my experience that the feedback I could give to a student using this feature was quicker than I could give in a face-to-face session. So last, if we have enough time here, yeah, I think we're okay. I'm going to just talk a little bit about how my experiences using Google Drive have expanded beyond just using it within a Google Plus Hangout. And the first part is to describe a little bit my current work situation. I have an office in NTID. I have an office in College of Science. I use my laptop in NTID. I use my desktop in College of Science. There's great potential for me to confuse my files because I'm back and forth weekly. So I decided probably about a year or so ago, while I was becoming more immersed in Google's technology, that I could take advantage of Drive and work on anything from anywhere and then upload it directly to that drive. And I know I can download from there anywhere, NTID, College of Science, or at home. I know that's the most recent version of the document I'm working on. And this screen capture is just showing my Google Drive here. On the right-hand side, you can see the different dates of when I uploaded or downloaded a file, so I know what's most recent for me. I've applied this methodology to all facets of my job, including my tutoring responsibilities, teaching responsibilities, research responsibilities, and my service. So I found this to be really invaluable for my productivity and sanity. Lisa mentioned a little bit earlier about asynchronous tutoring, and I found that there was a place for Google Drive to serve this as well. Recently, I've noticed that we've had more students electing to take summer classes. Traditionally, we don't offer tutoring in the summer, but that doesn't mean that there's still not a role for Google to play in helping these students. Last summer, I had 2 students that registered for biochemistry over the summer, and while I wasn't able to synchronously tutor them, I granted both of them access to all of my biochemistry materials on Google Drive. So anytime during the summer, they could go down and download those resources and have them while they continued their studies. And lastly, I just want to mention a little bit how Google Drive has really helped improve my ability to collaborate with colleagues on various documents. I think the perfect example would be to show the paper we've been working on for this project. 3 months ago during intersession, I was trying to finalize getting this wrapped up so we could submit for review. One of our colleagues, John McDonald in the MSSE program, was working at the Texas School for the Deaf, but we still needed his feedback and comments. By setting up access for him to this document on my Google Drive, he could comment on anything from Texas while Lisa and I were working on it at the same time. This was really nice to have his feedback pretty much in real time. And like Microsoft Word, you can, besides just add comments, you can actually make direct changes falling under the editing function in the upper right. Or instead of making direct changes, if you want to make suggestions, which is a similar vein to track changes in Microsoft Word, you can do that too, directly in Google Drive. And I should mention that this does require you convert the document to a Google Doc, which is a very simple process. You basically take a Word file, upload it to the drive, and then open it in Google Docs, one of those Google Drive apps. And then you can start doing that collaboration instantaneously. That about summarizes what I've been doing to this point. And we welcome any questions.
Austin, earlier on, you mentioned the role of a mediator for technical difficulties, I guess, before you got really comfortable with it. Can you talk about who that was and how that happened?
Ben Rubin was the third person. He used to be involved in the project. He was a technically savvy person. He understood the Google technology well. I remember he was explaining the functions I'm explaining to you today 3 years ago, and it just went over my head. Because I was trying to just, I was concerned about getting the signing right during the Hangouts. So all the other technology was kind of going over me, but I've learned over time now what he was saying back then.
So anybody that was starting off to use this technology would probably be well advised to have somebody like Ben.
Yes. I would recommend that someone, maybe not Ben necessarily, but someone involved in the project that understands can help them out. Absolutely.
And I can just add that Ben has since left the program, but we have new personnel that's come on board, and one of those individuals is Jim McCarthy. Jim, say hi. So Jim will be available to help people just as Ben was, and we have an additional person who will be coming on also very soon.
How open source is this? I mean, in other words, you have some sessions where you tutored students and you did make it available to students. Is it on Facebook? Are there sessions that are on Facebook at all, or because of the project you have an open source?
My understanding, all of it's within Google right now.
Okay.
But if you have anything to add.
Yeah, in the beginning of when we were planning, we we evaluated various different systems, and we chose Google specifically because of the privacy settings as opposed to Facebook. Facebook serves different purposes. Certainly, there are lots of educators that use Facebook pages for their classes, but we decided to use Google because we wanted the privacy settings to be stronger. Now, it's interesting because this Hangout is private. It's only between the people who are invited to participate. Google has a setting on Hangouts. It's called Google on Air, which actually creates an open session. It also archives that particular Hangout for future use, but it's only the video portion. It doesn't include the chat. One of the things that we didn't also mention is that you could copy, just much like a Word document, you could copy the chat and save it for later. You could put it into a Word document or on your Google Drive. So for a student, and I know what, we all had the experience where you go into a session and you have all these questions and the teacher explains things to you and then you think you understand and then a half an hour later you think, what did they say? So the opportunity to actually preserve and archive the chat would be a great resource. We've not tried to record the Hangouts because of that public feature. We're not sure why they make them public while they're being filmed, but you could, theoretically, you could do that. And then after this Hangout session is over, then you can change the settings so that it becomes private and only accessible to the people who are involved. Yes?
Austin, you know, so you're assigned courses for which you are the tutor, and there's a list of names that you have at the beginning of the semester, and you know that probably not all of those students are going to come to you for tutoring. Do you invite all of those students at the beginning of the semester to sign up for the Hangout, or do you wait until they approach you and ask you?
It tends to be me inviting. I'll also mention that I don't tutor much now, so my list of students has gone from this to this, because I only have, so my opportunity for inviting is limited. Typically, it's word of mouth. The students will talk if they've had a good experience. We've had a hard time getting multiple students to get involved, so we're not getting that spread out well enough through the students.
But there's no technological reason why you couldn't invite everybody on your list at the beginning of the semester, and they could join in, you know, as the semester went on.
Absolutely.
And they could look back at what had already happened because of the storage.
Absolutely.
I will add to that because we were building a model and we weren't sure how it was going to work, we tried to be very careful about inviting students. So the students were selected individually by the tutors because it's not just about inviting the whole class. This is a project that's supervised by the IRB. So we have consent forms and we're tracking people's progress through not only the course, but also through their progress through their whole careers. So in terms of letting people in, we were trying to be restricted in the beginning. But certainly, as the project goes on, we're comfortable about opening it up, because now we know that it works.
So there are a number of tutors in this room listening to you. So are you saying it's not ready for prime time yet?
Absolutely ready for prime time. And in fact, there are other people in the room here who have participated as well. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. So come on down and participate. Yes.
I have a question about the letter you said arose when a student wanted to show you their homework assignment so that you could then see maybe exactly where they were making a mistake. But one of the limitations was that you then lost the video feed for signing.
The student's feed to the tutor was temporarily stopped because their video is replaced by the program that they want to screen share. So you can only have one video feed coming from any participant at one time. So if the student elects to show their work, they have to give up the video feed temporarily to do that.
Is it possible to make that available? I mean, would there be a storage place within the documents where a student could submit their assignments, have a copy loaded up, that you could then grab, and then you two could continue to chat about it, because then now you've got their assignment right in front of both of you?
Absolutely. A student could do a screen capture at any moment and paste that in the chat. So that'd be the quickest way. And yes, you could maintain the visual communication, but you would have to refer to the chat. If the student uses voice or is comfortable with chat, I found it to be the fastest way possible to get the feedback, because I'm seeing it in real time.
Yes, okay.
But yes, I understand. Yeah, I think really what this emphasizes is that you have a ton of flexibility. We've scratched the surface, I would presume, on what you can do in a Hangout.
Yeah. Thank you.
How much time does it take a student to learn this stuff?
Well,
Get through, or they already know, and where, how?
so a typical face-to-face tutoring session is scheduled for an hour. I found in my early sessions with the Hangouts, it would take me 2 hours to do an hour's worth of tutoring because of the technical difficulties, learning about different things. So it would be the same for the student. I think the more adept a student is with Google technology, the more skilled and efficient they will be. And honestly, the screen share feature was introduced to me by a student during a tutoring session. I was tutoring them, all of a sudden their video was gone and they're showing me their work, and I said, what did you do? And they explained to me what they were doing, and then I was like, I see.
That's great.
Related to the video for signing, has any deaf tutors tried to use that? Do they have any experience or impressions related to using it?
Yes, we've had deaf tutors using it as well. For example, the adjunct from Florida, we've had math tutors, computer science tutors here on campus. So yes, they've used it as well. So it's not exclusively.
What is their general experience? Positive, or did anything come up for them?
I think that it was mixed. I think it depends on where in the course of the project they were. In some of our early adopters found technical stuff. I think that it's important to note that we started this project just about the same time as Google Plus and Hangouts were coming online. So our project was growing at the same time that the Google technology was growing and changing. So, you know, it's technology. We have challenges from time to time, but I think that people have had largely positive experiences with it. And Sharon had a question.
It's similar to his question, but I'm wondering what your students thought about this, having the list of students like A, B, C, D, E, and then maybe have 1 time or 2 time, 2 sessions. So I was wondering what they said about those experiences, because they only have 2 sessions because they ended up being frustrated, or did they find that it was helpful, or what was the students' responses?
So yeah, you'll notice C through G. In particular, C, D, and E, they signed up for tutoring with the Hangouts last 2 weeks of spring semester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that kind of relates back to the recruitment challenge we had.
Okay.
A and B really had participated for 3/4, I believe. And they had pluses and minuses. I'll admit, I actually set myself up wrong. If you'll notice, I was cutting myself off here. I should have set up back more to have a full signing space. And one student admitted to me that that was one of their concerns, was they weren't catching everything.
I'm part to blame for that. So maybe it being 2D also and perception as well. It's a challenge.
I would say though that while we've heard that comment offering the 2D versus 3D, if you look around campus and you watch, students are interacting on their phones and on their laptops with their friends all the time. And I've seen people even with their textbooks open and having a conversation. So I'm not sure whether that criticism or that comment is entirely valid. I think that more the issue is the research that's been done on using social media as an educational tool is a bigger issue. We all use social, or many of us, I should say, maybe there are a few people that don't use social media, but many of us use social media on a regular basis, and that's part of our personal lives. And researchers have noticed that oftentimes students are reluctant to incorporate social media into their academic lives. And so that's really the issue, that they don't want those two things to mix. But I've seen plenty of people sign to each other all over campus on using the video stuff.
Yeah, I see it all the time.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess it's mostly for personal interactions, but I'm wondering for learning purposes if that might be harder. I'm not sure.
I'm sure it complicates the matter in the Hangout because it's a higher pressure situation. It's not just chatting, it's learning at the same time.
Right.
We're just a little bit over time, and I know some people need to leave. I want to thank you for joining us during this beautiful lunchtime that we have here. And I welcome you to come up and ask more questions to Lisa and Austin. And I want to thank you for your presentation. It's, you can see the many applications of potential that the project has going forward.
And I just want to thank Chris for captioning for us today, and Steve for interpreting.